Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra 360. I am your host, Alexandra Levine. We have breaking news tonight. Hunter Biden, convicted of all three felony charges related to the purchase of a revolver in 2018. And what were those three convictions? What was he found guilty of? Number one, false statement in the purchase of a gun. Number two, making a false statement related to information required to be kept by a federally licensed gun dealer. And number three, possession of a gun by a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance. Oh, does that mean cocaine? Yeah, I think so. Remember they found cocaine in the White House? Was it his? So the question always is, where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? Well, because of his three felony charges today, he faces up to 25 years in prison. But the catch is there's no sentencing date. No sentencing date. Why don't we have a sentencing date? Gee, I wonder why. Is it because they're trying to, wait for President Trump's sentencing July 11th? And the question is Hunter Biden going to face jail time? As we know, the deep state and so forth, et cetera, has been trying to put President Trump in jail from the beginning. Is justice going to prevail here? Is Hunter Biden going to go to jail? But the funny thing is that this case, these convictions are nothing compared to what Hunter Biden has done over the years when his father was vice president. We have so much information from Hunter's laptop on every bad criminal thing that he and his family have done in regards to Burisma, in regards to what he did to his niece. I mean, he is a pedophile. His niece was 14 years old when he did salacious acts on her. It was on Pornhub.com, but nobody ever said anything about it. Nobody, nothing. He also was in the house that his name is on when his father, who was vice president at the time, had classified documents in the house. Speculation is that maybe Hunter Biden saw some of those classified documents in the house where his name is on. He goes to that house. That house has massive amounts of classified documents. And again, Joe Biden was vice president at the time, which, as we know, is illegal. So where's the justice here? Where's the justice? So people are saying, well, now that President Trump is a convicted felon and Hunter Biden is now a convicted felon, it's equal. Hunter Biden had a fair trial and President Trump had a fair trial. Were they both fair? What happened to President Trump? Was that a fair trial? No, it was a sham. Everybody knows it was a sham. There's people today that don't even know what President Trump was convicted of. I'm not an attorney. I don't know. Even renowned Democrat attorneys such as Alan Dershowitz and Jonathan Turley, they have no idea, no clue whatsoever why President Trump was convicted, why this case even happened to begin with. But they're going to sentence him on July 11th, and we don't know what they're going to sentence him to. Again, let me remind the class, the audience, that Michael Cohen was the one that paid Stormy Daniels $130,000. His signature is on the NDA form. President Trump's bookkeeper wrote legal expense. There's nothing illegal about what happened here. Michael Cohen is the felon. Michael Cohen is the one that stole $60,000 from President Trump for work that he didn't even do for President Trump. And Michael Cohen had a 10-year affair with Stormy Daniels. That wasn't brought up either in the trial. But President Trump, he's the bad guy here. He's the bad guy, even though he hasn't done anything, nothing. It's the Biden crime family that has done it all. And they continue to do it day after day after day. The more that Joe Biden is in the White House, all these crimes that Hunter Biden has done is thrown under the bus. And we hope it doesn't get thrown under the bus. Speculation and some political consultants have said that this is just one way to get Hunter Biden. We convicted him of 3 felony charges. The rest are coming. Let's see. Because Hunter faces a trial in September in California on charges of failing to pay $1.4 million in taxes. Is anything going to happen with that? A lot of people say that Hunter Biden committed the crime of money laundering. That is a known fact. This man has committed so many crimes, so many crimes. The real justice will be when Hunter Biden is in jail forever and President Trump is not in jail and gets a reprieve. So we may have a mistrial here with the sham trial that we had on May 30th. So the Manhattan Supreme Court, Justice Juan Merchan, revealed this past Friday night, they drop it right before the weekend, that a Facebook user claiming to be a cousin of a juror in Trump's sham trial suggested he had advanced knowledge of last week's guilty verdict. There's actually, if you go on Facebook, you can see it. It's all over New York Post. It's all over foxnews.com. You can go see it. If this is the case, if a juror spoke to a cousin in a pending trial, it's a mistrial. You're not allowed to talk about, a juror is not allowed to talk about a pending case to anybody until after the trial is finished. You don't have to be a lawyer to know that. So Judge Merchan, to cover his butt, he wrote a letter to Trump's attorneys. Trump's attorneys are looking into it right now. I hope that it's a mistrial. I hope that the juror opened his mouth to the cousin and told the cousin the night before that Trump was going to get convicted. I hope, because this country needs Donald Trump right now. Democrats and independents know this too. And Democrats and independents are supporting him. They're coming to his rallies. That man had massive rallies this weekend. He had massive amounts of people in Las Vegas this weekend. Massive amounts of people at Turning Point USA. This man is wanted by the people. So give the people what they want. Put President Trump back in office and let's stop the shenanigans. Our country is going to hell and everybody knows it. The more you keep Joe Biden in office, the more the people suffer. Young people suffer. Young people can't get married and have kids under Joe Biden. Everybody's on a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people are on unemployment because of Joe Biden. It is horrible. And they get DEI all over the place. If you want to get a job, you have to put your certain race or ethnicity to get a job. And if you put a certain race or ethnicity that doesn't adhere to the person hiring you, doesn't matter if you're qualified or not, they won't hire you. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I got one thing to say to my audience tonight. Go to DonaldJTrump.com, give him a donation today. Whether it's $5, $10, something. We need this man back in the White House. I don't want to hear, well, he's a billionaire and he doesn't need our money. He does need our money and he does need our help. Go to DonaldJTrump.com right now. My family has given money to him. I have a lot of friends that have given money to him. I know Democrats, independents that have given money to him. It is time that we put the duly elected president back in the White House. We all know that President Trump was elected in 2020. We need to put him in the White House in 2024. It is very, very important. It is very, very, very important that we get President Trump back in the White House. So coming up right after our sponsor, right after our break, is Nate Cain. Nate Cain is he was a Republican candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in West Virginia's 2nd District. Nate Cain is also a federal whistleblower. You're not going to want to miss this. He's coming up right after our sponsor.
Born in the coastal plains of South Texas, Smoking Gun Coffee is founded by combat veterans that know exactly what a cup of coffee needs to taste like. Run by father and son, each coffee bean is perfected, roasted at 500 degrees, and cooled with a Gulf Coast breeze. Smoking Gun Coffee hand makes and bags each ounce of coffee for maximum customer satisfaction. With every purchase, 10% goes back to organizations that help veterans and local communities. That's Texas made, one bag at a time. To find out more, go to www.smokingguncoffee.com.
We are back now. This is Alexandra 360. We have a special guest with us tonight, Nate Cain. He was a Republican candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in West Virginia's 2nd District. Nate says he's a federal whistleblower for the FBI's cover-up of Hillary Clinton's foundation crimes. Mr. Cain says he stands for pro-life, pro-free speech, pro-gun rights, pro-energy, pro-agriculture, pro-freedom, pro-gun, pro-constitution, and pro-American. Thank you so much for being on my show tonight. How are you doing tonight? Oh, I think you're on mute, Mr. Cain.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm doing great. And
Awesome.
no, I was enjoying listening to your what you were talking about with the Hunter Biden issues. You know, so the interesting little fact about my background. You know, I of course after I blew the whistle and everything, I ended up getting some notoriety for that, and I guess I passed the Trump White House sniff test. But I ended up getting a phone call from the White House after the 2020 election, and I was asked by the Trump team to come down and join a election integrity team. And so I was working, basically doing work and providing that, you know, what I was working on a 3-man team. And we were providing our work product to Peter Navarro and Trump's lawyers. And my handler was Garrett Ziegler. And Garrett Ziegler, who helped to put this together,
Yeah,
the
very
Biden
famous.
laptop Marco Polo report. And so he sent me a copy of this as a gift when they broke the story on it. And but great guy. And I'll tell you what, you know, you go through this and you read this, the whole thing is online. In fact, I would say that this is probably the dirtiest book I have in my entire house. You know, I would not dare show it on here because it's got all the pictures of everything. They've censored it out, but you can still get the idea. But I mean, this guy had business related crimes, and they have all the evidence in this book. All this was all the stuff that came off that laptop. But he basically had business related crimes in China, the Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Romania, Mexico, Serbia, Libya. And then there were unreported income and gifts and backdating the financial documents. They have all kinds of stuff in here, not to mention the sex crimes. And I mean, literally, one thing in this book here that just blows my mind is they have they've got all of his drug dealers, their phone numbers. They have all of his hookups, all of the prostitutes that he was with. I mean, how this guy is still standing and doesn't have AIDS is, I don't understand that. Yeah, the guy is a very disturbing person. Of course, they have the information in there about the gun and all of that as well. But distribution and possession, operating motor vehicles while under the influence. This guy should be getting arrested for a heck of a lot more than just a gun charge. So, you know, it shocks me, but it doesn't shock me. I mean, what's going to happen? My opinion, nothing. I think, he got charged, but, what will sentencing be? And, will they appeal and will they win their appeal, at least on a couple of these charges? Probably, and if not, his father's the president, so he can pardon him. And I guarantee you, if Biden loses, that'll be his parting gift, will be to pardon his son. Guaranteed.
But Joe Biden said he wasn't going to pardon his son the other day. Let's say
I don't believe anything the man says. He will absolutely pardon him. And the main reason he'll pardon him is because if he doesn't, his son will squeal on him on his involvement and everything. So he'll pardon him just to keep his son from spilling the beans on all of his involvement. What should happen is Congress should take this book, go through it, find everything there is about all of these foreign activities, and with Joe Biden being the big man who got his 10%, and he should be impeached and thrown out. But unfortunately, the Senate being what it is, and quite honestly, the House, being what it is, with several in the House, not having the spine to do a whole lot. I just can't imagine that anything will happen in this Congress. So I was hoping that I'd be able to make a difference in Congress in the next election. Unfortunately, I lost my primary. I say unfortunately, but there's part of me that's relieved because I know how hard it would have been going down there. I've worked in DC many years. I was a contractor and I have my own cybersecurity company now. But I also was a federal employee, worked for Marforce Cyber, and then worked for the Navy, and then I worked for the FBI. And when I was at the FBI, that's when I really discovered just how corrupt our justice system is. And I found evidence, and I carried that evidence out of the FBI and took it to the IG and to both the House and Senate Intel committees. And this was evidence that the FBI had that showed that Hillary Clinton, they had high probability of criminal activity related to money laundering, public corruption, securities and exchange fraud, and terrorism financing. Coming straight out of her, the Clinton, foundation. And this was money coming in from foreign countries where it should not have come from, countries that we don't do business with, and money going out from the foundation and paying $9,000 a month payments to a known international terrorist in Egypt, who was a man who was the head spokesman for the Muslim Brotherhood. Yeah. So all of this was happening, by the way, in the run-up to the Arab Spring. So I have no doubt in my mind that Hillary Clinton and that, and all you got to do is look at the Democrats now and look at who they're supporting. Hamas. Yep. They're a terrorist organization. That's who the Democrats support. So, if there was any shred of humanity left in the Democrat Party, I think it's gone now. I think that there were times, and there's certainly, I don't want to paint every Democrat with the same brush, but the fact is the Democrat platform, it is a Marxist, Marxist, socialist, whatever you want to call it, fascist even. They're buddies with the big tech companies. They want total control. They want total authoritarianism. They want to take away our rights. They want to allow illegal immigrants in our country. They can turn them into the next voters, because no American in his right mind is going to vote for them. And so, those that they've already brainwashed, many of these people are waking up and they're realizing, the economic crisis that we're in, and they're seeing, the influx. I just read an article recently that a lot of the job market, is being flooded by, the only people doing good right now in the job market in the U.S. are immigrants. Immigrants are getting.
That's what I was saying about DEI, earlier, is that's what it's all about, especially in a lot of liberal states. People that are very well qualified, they're not getting these jobs because of immigration and because of
the people coming in. That's right. And even the legal immigration, and there's a lot of people who come in here illegally, getting fake papers and getting jobs at places like McDonald's and stuff like that. That's evident every time I go through the drive-through and I meet somebody that doesn't speak very good English. But the fact is that it's also happening with even the high-paying jobs. The HB visa program. That program, I was looking online to see who are the main people that are sponsoring visas from all of these Muslim countries, from all of these, places all over the world, to take jobs like doctors, to take jobs like high-tech paying jobs. And you know who it is? It's mostly Microsoft, Oracle, and Google. Those are the three top companies that make up like 80% of those HB1 visas that are coming in. And here's the thing. The reason why they're getting them is because they're not paying these people the wages that an American would get paid. They're paying these people under American wages, and they're getting away with it. And the senators and the congressmen that are voting for these things, they should be ashamed of themselves, because there are people who are qualified for those jobs here in the U.S., but they're not getting them.
I agree with you. And I have a lot of friends that work for Microsoft. These are legal citizens of the country. They work for Microsoft for 25, 30 years. They were just laid off. And who's taking their jobs? Illegal immigrants, just like you said.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
It's very sad. So, I was going to say, what compelled you to put your life on the line and come out and literally blow the whistle on the Clinton Foundation?
It's really simple. I have a strong faith in Jesus Christ and in God, and I believe that I'm going to be held accountable someday. I'm not going to stand before God someday, and it's not going to be like they portray in the cartoons. No, I'm going to stand before God, and I'm going to be held accountable, not only for the things that I've done in this life that were wrong, but also for the good that I could, or the good that I chose not to do when I had the power to do something. And that's straight out of Scripture. And and so I really do believe, and I have a fear of God, and so I know that God put me in that situation. There's a reason why I was where I was at. There was a lot of things that happened at that time, but I know that if we, what was it? Edmund Burke's, he used to had that famous saying, all that is required for evil men to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And that is the truth of it. And so I knew I could not sit there and live with myself and turn a blind eye to that. And that's just who I am. That's, I think, but I credit that to my faith in God and my, and the Holy Spirit that's in me. I know right from wrong, and I can't just sit by and abide by, evil things that are going on. And when I took my oath, I served in the U.S. Army, and then I also served as a Navy and a Marine civilian. I took the oath all 3 times, and that oath was to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And so, we always think about our foreign enemies. We know them. But we don't. Rarely do we actually think about when we take that oath that it also includes domestic enemies, those people who would want to thwart the Constitution. And one of the things that we are afforded in this country is equal justice under the law. And so if somebody, because they are a politically powerful family, can get off, for crimes of treason, because that's the words that were being thrown around in the discussion that led me to investigate, was that they were going to shut down the investigations into Hillary Clinton because they thought she was going to become the president, and they were afraid of reprisal. And words like treason were being thrown around. And so for them to know that she committed treason, and yet they were willing to turn a blind eye, to save their own skins or save their jobs or their SCS positions, it's atrocious. And so, that this is, and we're seeing a repeat of this with the Bidens, right?
Well, they said it with Obama too. People are saying,
absolutely. Obama's involved. By the way, Obama knew everything about. So one of the big cases that I was involved with in my whistleblowing was Uranium One, and Uranium One was probably the most notable, investigation that they were doing into Hillary Clinton, and it involved the sellout of 20% of our uranium supply chain to Russia. And to a company called Rosatom. Basically, Rosatom wanted to buy Uranium One, which was a Canadian uranium processing company. And Hillary Clinton, she was the person who had the authority to sign off on that as the Secretary of State. She was also the chair of the CFIUS committee, which is the committee on foreign investment in the U.S. And they have the final decision, and so they're supposed to review, all those types of decisions and make sure that, we're not selling things that, impact national security to our enemies. Well, it got approved. And so Rosatom, they basically bought Uranium One, and then 20% of our uranium was sent to Russia. Even though it was not supposed to be sent, it was sent there. Now, if we ever want it back, we got to pay for it to get it back. And the thing is the company, Rosatom, which is a Russian energy company, the FBI had evidence on them that they were involved in a bribery and kickback scheme, several years before, trying to infiltrate our uranium supply chain. They knew this, and the people who were involved in that investigation were none other than Robert Mueller. You had Robert Mueller, you had Rosenstein, our deputy AG at the time I blew the whistle. You had, of course, Jim Comey, who was the deputy FBI director at the time, but of course, Robert Mueller was the FBI director. All these guys were involved. McCabe, he was involved. Peter Strzok, all of them. So, I mean, it's like, the whole group of plotters. Why did they plot against Trump? They plotted against Trump because they didn't want him to go and see what they had covered up. You see, they knew all of that, and they said nothing. And Robert Mueller, as the head of the FBI, he had a fiduciary duty to the CFIUS committee to warn them, not to warn them about any information that they had on, these dealings that were being made. I actually was asked by the senior staffer to Devin Nunes when I went forward with the information to him. He asked me if I'd go back in and get a report, an intelligence report that would reveal what the FBI knew about Rosatom and when they knew it. And I went back and I found that report. I brought it out, and that report showed all the evidence, and it showed the date on it was before the CFIUS committee, voted on that. So that means, and guess what else I found? I found an office of the executive, presidential FBI weekly presidential report that Obama and Biden were briefed on, that showed that they knew about Rosatom, and they knew about all of that. So it implicates both Biden, and it also implicates Obama, that they knew about it too, and they could have stopped it, but they didn't. And so I have to believe that there was much more to it. Obviously, there was a big payoff with Rosatom and one of their parent company, paying off millions of dollars for that speech in Moscow to Bill Clinton. But I would guess that they all got paid because they were all, complicit in it and allowing it to happen and selling out our country.
So let me ask you, Nate. So we have, the wars going on with Ukraine and Russia. Now we have war in the Middle East. What say you about that? What say you about the differences between the wars? A lot of people try to put the two wars together, saying Ukraine and Russia is the same as the war in the Middle East. What say you about that?
Well, it is a different situation. For one, the money, basically the arms that we sell to Israel, okay, those arms are for them to defend their own country. I'm not opposed to selling arms to any country that is defending themselves. But the other thing that's going on, though, in the Ukraine is that much of this money has been completely unaccountable. We don't know where it's gone. We don't know what's happened to it. In fact, there was a big old scandal that quickly got covered up, which was that you had major amounts of money disappearing and going into the cryptocurrency company that was then spreading that money around to all of these politicians in DC. So I think that for a very long time, the Ukraine has been, it has been the money laundering capital for U.S. politics, both on the Republican and mostly on the Democrat, but it's also been Republicans involved too. And so that's why nobody wanted to touch it. And, I don't like to see what's happening with Russia, invading the Ukraine, but can you blame them? I mean, we had agreed that we would not, put our defense, systems, which basically can take out nukes and all of that into the Ukraine. And that's what Russia wanted us to stick to that agreement. But then all of a sudden, there was talk about, backing out of that and allowing for that to go in. And now you've got basically NATO authorizing the use of weapons, use of American weapons, use of NATO weapons by the Ukrainians, in basically what is a war between two countries. And the Ukraine is not a member of NATO. They are not an ally, that we don't have a treaty with them. And yet we are basically allowing NATO to try to get us into World War III. This is a very serious thing. The difference, the geopolitics between a war between Russia and a war between the Ukraine is completely different than what is happening, in Israel, where you have Israel, which basically did nothing to provoke Hamas, and Hamas went in, they kidnapped, they murdered men, women, and children, and then they and there's no geopolitical storm for us, to help them end that crisis. And so, and it's to our advantage for us to create stability in that region. We have a great working relationship, with Saudi Arabia, thanks to the Abraham Accords, and with Egypt now. And so, Hamas is like a hornet's nest, basically there to stir up trouble and to cause, furtherance of, trying to cause furtherance of war. And so I'm not opposed to supporting Israel. I think we absolutely need to support Israel. However, that said, I do believe that we have to be careful about how we support any country. And that goes for all foreign aid. Foreign aid should have very specific purposes, and it should be very clear as to what we're doing, and it should be agreed upon by Congress. That's why we elect these people. And I do think that I have a problem with the way that we do appropriations, especially for foreign aid. I don't think that we should be spending our, like, look what they just did. We had these guys going and building a bridge in Gaza, and apparently a storm came and took it out. They were building some sort of pier or something so they could drop off goods. The U.S. came in and they, because they're trying to virtue signal, right? They dropped, aid, by parachutes and whatever, over Gaza, and it ended up killing, a bunch of civilians, right? Because the people were gathering there to try to get to stuff. I think some of the first supplies that we dropped in there, it went to Hamas, and Hamas made sure that it wouldn't, go out to anybody except for their loyal supporters. So we got to be.
I'm glad that you put that out there, because a lot of people don't know that, or they do know and they just don't care.
Well, so to me, it's really clear what should have happened was, down by the, by the, I can't remember the city or the town, but where it's closest to Egypt. What they should have set up is the
city of Rafah.
Yes, Rafah. In Rafah, they should have cordoned off Rafah and said, we are going to distribute, through the UN, we will distribute food to the people directly. We're not allowing Hamas to deliver food to the people. None of that. We will support, and provide medical aid, through the UN. This is how it should have been done, like a refugee camp. But this is part of the problem, right? Look, nobody wants these people. Egypt's not going to let them in. They don't want them in because they don't want a bunch of terrorists in their country either. Right. Remember, the people of Gaza voted to put a terrorist group in control of their country. Does that mean everybody in Gaza, is guilty of that? No, there are a lot of people who are just trying to survive. But the fact is that these people voted for who is there. And that is, and there's been a lot of research into it. And I'll tell you that the best source that I have is my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law has his PhD in sociology and religion, and he actually did his PhD in Israel. And he went there as a skeptic. He went there as a completely woke university guy, university PhD, thinking that he was going to go show how evil the Israelis were in occupying Palestine. Right? He got there, came back completely converted because of what he saw. He saw with his own eyes, and he saw that the fact is that there are plenty of Arabs living in Israel peacefully, but there are no Jews living in Gaza.
That's correct.
Period. So because they'll be killed.
Right. There was until the pullout. As there was until the pullout in 2005. But yeah, that's true. I want to shift a little bit, because we have a few minutes left, to national politics, to your state in particular, because your state is a big topic, especially with the senatorial race. The fact that Joe Manchin just switched parties from Democrat to independent, that's a big story. So tell me, what's the buzz going on in your state? Is there, me personally, I feel that Jim Justice will win the Senate seat, which will flip, for the audience, and this, Jim Justice was a Democrat as the governor. He flipped to Republican because of President Trump, and then decided to run for Senate when Joe Manchin said he was stepping down. But this is a big thing. A lot of people are focused on the Senate race right now. They want to win those Senate seats because they want to take back the majority for, if President Trump comes back in. Yeah. President Trump, in my opinion, will be back in. But, like I said, your state in particular, there's a lot of buzz. So tell us, have you been in touch with the Jim Justice campaign? Have you been in touch with Joe Manchin's campaign at all? What say you about that?
So in regards to being in touch with them, no. I did reach out to Jim Justice's campaign early on just to talk with them about some things. And to be honest with you, Jim Justice, he's kind of a wild card as to to how well he will do in the Senate. Governor and Senate role are two very different things. To be honest with you, I wasn't too impressed with him as governor. There was a lot of things that I do appreciate his support of Trump. I do think he's a genuine man. I've met him in person, and the sense that I get is that he genuinely does care for this country and cares for our state. But he's also, he is a politician, and And the fact is that the reason that Trump supported him was because Trump felt like he owed him a favor, because he switched from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party. So anytime you have somebody that switches from one party to another, there's always going to be a period of time that you're not sure about, really truly what their loyalties are. There was a time where you couldn't get elected as a Republican in this state. That has clearly, changed. It's now a solid red state. And he saw the writing on the wall, I think, early on. And so I do credit him as being, importantly leading, I guess, the charge of Democrats switching to the Republican Party. Is that a good thing? In some ways, yes. In some ways, not. The fact is that they bring with them some of their baggage from the Democrat Party. However, the Democrats here in West Virginia, particularly the older Democrats, they were a different kind of breed of Democrat than what you see today in the Democrat Party. And so there is room for them in the Republican Party. They are traditionally conservative on the social issues. Where they are different from Republicans is in their support of labor and the unions. But the fact is, the unions have lost power. The unions, the Democrats. I don't understand why the union bosses support the Democratic Party, because they do absolutely nothing for them. A case in point, there was a time where the unions down in Southern California, the migrant farmers, that they would go down to the border and they would literally, and this was a Cesar Chavez, he was a big Democrat, big time union member. They would go down to the border, and they actually called them the wet patrol, and that's where the term wetback came from. They would literally line the river, the Rio Grande, and they would beat with belts and whips the illegals that were crossing over the border, because they saw them as a threat to their jobs. They saw them as a threat to their livelihood, because they were willing to come work for nothing. So things have completely changed. You now have, even though the unions, the union leadership supports the Democrat Party, virtually nobody in the union anymore votes Democrat, because they see it as at least here in West Virginia, I think they've woken up to the fact, especially in our industries of steel and coal and power plants, the miners, the steel workers unions. They've all been left behind by this green energy deal, which has just completely destroyed their industry. By what happened up in, we had one of the three remaining tin mills that shut down, and this was directly due to the policies of this current administration, and they allowed for the dumping of Chinese steel and Canadian steel and German steel. There's 5 different countries, I think, that were total involved: South Korea, China, Canada, and I want to say it was also, I think it was also Japan. And they were dumping, basically tin into the markets. But one of the biggest offenders was Canada, and they're dumping, that tin into our market illegally, meaning violating trade agreements. And they were doing that so that they could basically put, our businesses out of business. And, and then China did that with wood as well. And so lost one of the largest job producers in our state in the hardwoods when Allegheny Lumber went out of business. Now, some of that had to do with mismanagement of the company by the son who took over for his father. But a lot of it had to do also with, trade deficits, and with China was buying up cheap hardwood from Africa during during COVID. And then they dumped it into our market to, basically hurt, those companies that are producing hardwood. So
Nate, we have about, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just say we have about 30 seconds left before our next segment. I just wanted for you to have a chance to tell the audience how we can follow you.
So the best way to follow me is you can follow me on all social media at Nate Cain for WV. My site is still up, natecainforwv.com. I am retooling it for less of a site about my candidacy and more of a site about the issues. And I'm going to be starting my own podcast soon. And so, stay tuned with both my social media and on my website, because that'll all be retooled for that. So I'm working on that right now. And the other thing too is, I'm still going to be engaged. The one thing I'll say good that came out of campaigning is I met a lot of wonderful people all over the state and all over the country. I had over 41 states that donated to my campaign. We raised $100,000 without holding a single fundraiser. And,
Wow.
and I mean, it was like, I think we held 2 small little fundraisers that were, like a ladies' tea kind of a thing where we brought in like 2,000, but the bulk of the money came from people, listening to me as I talked on interviews and donating to my campaign. And like I said, it came in from 41 different states. And so we've made some really great connections with people all over, and I'm going to stay engaged. And, they're going to rue the day. The deep state's going to rue the day that they made sure that I didn't win, because I'm going to be far more effective out of public office, than I probably would have been in public office. So stay tuned.
Well, thank you so much, Nate. You have been a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate you so very much. We're going to follow Nate Cain for westvirginia.com.
Yep, .com, or they can just do Nate Cain for WV I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Truth Social, Getter, and Gap.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, and we will be right back after our sponsor.
All right.
Have you noticed the ever-alarming 400,000 cell towers that have gone up in the United States alone? How about the electronics that reside in every room of our homes and Wi-Fi that runs 24/7? 5G cell phones are carried in our pockets hours on end. Common complaints are ringing in the ear: sleep deprivation, palpitations, headaches, memory loss, and so much more. Redemption Shield is on the cutting edge of offering products that protect your family from electromagnetic and microwave radiation. From Faraday bags, earthing bed sheets, Wi-Fi router covers, hats, scarves, bed sanctuaries, this will not be going away anytime soon. We will continue to see only faster speeds, 6G, 7G, and more exposure to EMF than any time in our history. Start protecting yourself now. Go to redemptionshield.com and get grounded and shielded today. Use code PATRIOT and save 10%.
Signal out there.
Well, it's so great to have us back. This is Alexandra Levine. You are live with me on Alexandra 360. We're shifting to international right now. We just had Nate Cain on. You can follow Nate Cain for West Virginia. We touched and talked about Israel a little bit. As you know, there was a horrific event that happened on October 7th. 1,200 innocent people were burned, murdered, tortured, beheaded, etc. Horrible, horrible things that have happened to the Jewish people. And there were actually some non-Jews that were murdered on October 7th as well. Well, we have had some victory this week. I personally did a release the hostages, also rescue the hostages rally in Frederick County with my friends Seth Eisenberg and Fred Profiter with the Frederick County Conservative Club. This was May 19th. And we called for the rescue of the hostages. We called for we called for them to be brought back. And let me tell you something, rallies do matter. The message was heard, and 4 hostages were rescued from Gaza by the Israeli Defense Force, by the IDF. And I'm going to have Eddie, he's going to put up that picture right now that was on Facebook about the 4 hostages that were rescued. Their name was Noah Argami, Almaz Maryan, Andrei Kozlov, and Shlomi Ziv. Noah was very known because there was a huge viral video that went out of her being captured by Hamas militants, by the Gazans. And, we don't know yet what happened to her. And I'm not going to speculate what happened to her, but I know that she and the 3 others were taken to the hospitals and for full examination. I mean, if I was a parent, I mean, I would be sick to death, and I would be calling everybody alive. There's a picture right there. Thank you, Eddie. And Noah she's the girl. She's embracing her father at the top left. And, obviously with hostages, you don't know if they're coming back dead or alive. And it was so beautiful to see that these 4 hostages were brought back alive. But again, we don't know exactly what they went through. I know there's been documentaries. I know there's been some video out of what happened to these people. But Noah, specifically, we saw videos of her being captured by Hamas and taken to God knows where, and God knows what happened to her. Like I said, we're not going to speculate, but again, there were women that were raped from the front to the back, tortured. Babies were burned in ovens, in the ovens of the dead. Like you're sitting there and your hands are tied behind your back, and you're watching this Hamas militant crank up the heat of your oven and shove your baby in your own oven, and you're watching your baby get burned alive. I mean, I'm sorry for the graphics, but you have to know what happened. There's a 47-minute video of exactly what happened and what Hamas did to the Jewish people, what Hamas did to 1,200 innocent lives that were killed. I've been working with the Israeli embassy to try to obtain some of that footage. I know that the Prime Minister and the President of Israel, they've been showing some of the images, some of the video out there on certain websites, and I'll get that to you as soon as I can after the podcast. But breaking news is that Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu will be addressing the halls of Congress for the fourth time. For the fourth time as Prime Minister of Israel, he will be addressing the halls of Congress July 24th in D.C. I'm planning on being there, and he will lay out what has been going on. He will lay out everything. He'll talk about how horrible it is to go back into the Iran nuclear deal, which Biden went back into, and he will lay out the facts of what's going on. We, as American citizens, we must support our ally Israel. We must stand with them. And Nate Cain said that. He supports Israel. He stands with Israel. We all must. You're not pledging allegiance to a foreign nation by supporting your biggest ally, Israel. That's ridiculous. I have a dress that I had custom made for me with the Israeli flag draped over the front of the dress that I will be wearing when Bibi Netanyahu enters Capitol Hill. Because it's not, again, I'm not pledging allegiance to a foreign nation. I'm showing support as a Jew, as an American Jew, as a Jewish woman. But and you don't even have to be Jewish to wear a Jewish star or to wear an Israeli flag across your body. But just to show the support that I have for Israel and for our biggest ally. And like I said, there were Christians that were murdered and captured. There were people of the Buddhist faith that were tortured and captured. And we're hoping that all of the hostages are alive. They're saying that the majority of them are dead. I'm not sure. We have 5 American hostages still under Hamas rule, and that was also the message of our rally, was to bring those 5 hostages back alive, because that is priority right now. That is what should be priority right now, is bringing the hostages back, but also allowing Israel to continue to annihilate the enemy once and for all. As I said to the Biden administration, as I've said to the Secretary of States and the DOJ and so forth, etc., leave Israel alone. Let them do the job. Let them do the job. They're fighting back. They have to. They need to defend themselves against these terrorists and people that stand by Hamas and stand by these terrorists. You got to have your head examined. There's something wrong with you. You should not be standing by these terrorists. I challenge all these people that host these pro-Hamas rallies on college campuses to go to Gaza, to go to Lebanon and hang out with Hezbollah, to hang out with Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigade and the Taliban and Islamic Jihad and the Muslim Brotherhood. I challenge you all. Because you know what? You wouldn't last a second. These people are not your friends. To stand with them, to support them, to say Israel is committing genocide, Israel is an apartheid state, it's BS and it's false information. And to facilitate that in high schools, in middle schools, in colleges, in universities, you're misrepresenting what Israel is all about. And you should not be teachers, by the way. If you're not going to teach the facts, if you're going to teach a political bias and you're going to put political bias in the classroom, you should not be a teacher. Not at all. This is important stuff. And more hostages are going to be rescued. More is going to happen. I wholeheartly believe this. Israel is not going to stop until the job is done, and we need to allow Israel to do that. We should not get in their way. And it's very important to notice that this special operation took place in the Nazarite refugee camp, where 236 people were killed and over 400 people were injured. So this was huge. And for the IDF to go in and do this mission and to rescue these hostages, that their parents went on social media and said, please, please, please bring my child back. Please, please bring my relative back, please. The IDF heard the call, and the IDF has a list of the hostages, and they know who they need to get. But we also have Congressman, my governor, Ron DeSantis, he did missions to bring hostages back. That's what needs to happen. You don't tell someone to stand down like Joe Biden is doing. He's saying, stand down. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, stand down. You need to sit down with Hamas. You just sit down with the terrorists. And then Joe Biden lies and says that Israel wants to do deals with the terrorists, and he wants to hang out with the terrorists. No, that was 100% not true. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. You cannot negotiate with them at all. Again, the whole point of the mission. There's two missions: to annihilate the enemy once and for all, and also to release the hostages, rescue the hostages as much as possible. We call the Israelis have called for the release of them, but we also need to rescue them as well. We have to do whatever it takes, because if 4 hostages can be rescued today, hopefully, more can happen after that. But again, there's hundreds of hostages still out there. We have 5 American hostages still under Hamas rule. And Bibi Netanyahu is coming to the halls of Congress on July 24th. And he will be telling we the people that we need to be there. Telling we the people what's up and that we need to help. And we need to do whatever we can to help. And I encourage everyone to go to FIDF.org, Friends of the Israeli Defense Force .org, and make a contribution as well. I've made contributions. I've done events with the FIDF. They're a great organization. We need to help them because they're the ones that are doing everything they can to bring Americans back on American soil alive, or bring American hostages back on American soil alive. And this is very important. And if you are a member of Congress, you should be there. Let me tell you something. Bernie Sanders isn't going to be there. The squad isn't going to be there. Get out of Congress. Get out of Congress. If you don't want to be there when Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu comes to Congress, then get out. Get out. Just remove yourself. The people will eventually vote you out, but do us all a favor and just get out. Because if you don't support your biggest ally, Israel, and you are representing your district or you're in the halls of Congress, you should be ashamed of yourself and you should get out. Get out. Bernie Sanders needs to get out. The squad needs to get out because they are detriments to this nation. They don't love America and they hate Israel and they support these terrorist organizations, just like Nate Cain said. So that's the message today. The message today is we need equal justice under the law. The truth will always prevail and that the truth shall set us free. And we have to stand on the right side of history here, guys. We can't stand with the bad people. We can't allow socialist Democrats and establishment rhinos to control the narrative because guess what? We don't have a voice anymore. Conservatism will be dead in this country. Our rights will be dead in this country if we allow socialist Democrats and establishment rhinos to control the narrative and to control our fate. And that's our podcast for tonight. I'm Alexandra Levine with Alexandra 360, and I have a tagline that my family copywritten, trademarked, and incorporated. It's called You Are No Idiot. You can go to youarenoidiot.com, and we say the reason that you listen and the reason that you watch is you are no idiot. See you next week.